Welcome back to another episode of Bright Brains. Today we have a special guest with us, Kristen Carter. Kristen is a nutritionist and exercise physiologist with years of experience helping people achieve their fitness and health goals. She brings a wealth of knowledge on nutrition, exercise, and the common obstacles many of us face when striving for weight loss. Whether you're looking to kickstart your fitness journey or need tips to overcome those pesky hurdles, Kristen is here to provide expert advice and practical solutions. So without further ado, let's welcome Kristen to the show. Welcome, Kristen.
Hello, Isaac. Glad to be here.
Hey, awesome. I'm glad you're here. So let's tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay. I became an exercise physiologist about 35 years ago and then started in just training people at the YMCA just to get some experience. And it isn't just, how to lift weights and what to do. It's you really start talking to people and you find out what their struggles are, what their attitudes are, what's blocking them, what works, what doesn't. And so through the years, I've been listening to people. I've also done some research with the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging. I've also been part of a weight loss program that was a grant in Pennsylvania. We went around the state, and I was responsible for talking about weight loss as it relates to exercise. So that was my part of it. And then I worked also in physical therapy clinic for a long time, where I learned a whole ton more about how bodies work and what can go wrong, which there's plenty of those things, as we all know. And then I finished up my career doing in-home training and then retired, sort of. And I said, this is silly. I've got a lot of gas in the tank left. So I wrote a couple of books called The End of Try Again. And then there's an action workbook that goes with it. So End of Try Again is about a theoretical basis for how to make some changes that are healthy, and digging deep and finding out why you would want to do that. And then the action workbook asks a bunch of questions. So I'm not so much about giving advice or telling you what you should do. I'm more about letting you answer the questions yourself, asking the right questions, and then helping you find the answers. And then you come up with your own strategies that are going to work for you. So that's basically what I do.
All right, awesome. So you said during your being in a personal trainer or exercise physiologist, you noticed that there were some common struggles that people had that prevented them from losing weight. What are those common struggles?
There's plenty of them. So a lot of times people feel like they have to go to the gym in order to exercise. And that just limits your menu right there. Many people feel that if they want to lose weight and exercise more, they've got to jump out of the gate and get going right away. I myself have seen people in the gym spending 4 hours at the gym on their first day, and then you never see them again, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of losing weight, people feel like, okay, if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less. So they try to find the willpower to do that. And when you think about it, willpower is applied when you're going to do something that you don't want to do.
Mhm.
So how long is that going to last? So that is not going to be a good strategy. You see it in people that I talk to all the time. You see it in the literature. The research does not support going on a diet because you will resist, you'll rebel, you'll hate it. And yet people continue to do those things. They continue to feel that they need to somehow make a big switch right up front to a new lifestyle. And that is one of the things that's going to just stop the whole process. So, though I see people struggling with that all the time, and I see people going on one diet after another, thinking that the next one's going to be the winner. And it just doesn't work that way. What you need is a different strategy, a different way of approaching it. And asking yourself, did this work for me before? No. So, I need to do it a different way. So that's a big, heavy answer to all that. But I kind of wanted to give a general overview of what a lot of people are thinking when they start thinking about losing weight and exercising more. It's kind of a black hole for a lot of people.
Yeah. And there's also so much information out there, and a lot of it is contradictory. When you look into this kind of stuff, one person will say, do this, they'll say, don't eat carbs. And then another person will say, no, you need carbs. Some people will say, don't eat fat. And then other people will say, no, you should eat fat, and so it's so much out there. So, what advice do you give to people who are seeking to lose weight? I know that's kind of a big question, almost kind of as big as the last question I asked, but like, I guess like if there were three things, like the three top things that you would tell somebody who's beginning their weight loss journey, what would you tell them?
Okay. Well, I wanted to speak to your other thing about information first.
Hmm.
Um, so the point is that people tend to they like the information they get from their friends more than their doctor. Okay, so they've shown that a lot of times in the research. Plug for myself, I do a lot of reading and research. And so if you're going to find out some new things, you need to find it out from places like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard. Or believe it or not, your doctor does read research and can tell you some things about that. Um, the internet, as you just said, is loaded with all kinds of information. So the way to go, I would say, number one is don't head for a diet. You want to head for what they're talking about now all the time is a lifestyle change. So I'm always recommending the Mediterranean style of eating. So number one would be get yourself acquainted with what that style of eating is. I don't like to call it a diet. I don't like to call it Mediterranean diet. It's a style of eating. You can find good information about that actually from government organizations like NIH, the CDC, American Heart Association. Those kinds of places are good places to get information from. And of course, my book gives you a cheat sheet about that. The other thing would be ask yourself what you've done in the past that has worked and that hasn't worked. So if something hasn't worked, you can delve into why, like, well, I went on this diet for a while and I just couldn't keep doing it, which is what happens 95% of the time. So ask yourself why you did that, why you picked that particular one, and just, okay. Ask yourself, you have to be honest with yourself and go, you know what? I wanted instant gratification. A lot of people want instant gratification. Are you willing to let go? That would be number two. Are you willing to let go of instant gratification? So a lot of people feel like they have to exercise like crazy in order to see something happen, and then that'll be motivating. That just does not happen. It takes a long time to start seeing differences in your body. You've got to be patient. And I always tell people regarding the second one, You're not going anywhere. Your body's going to be with you forever. Give yourself the gift of time. Let it roll and go on like that. So do you want, okay, and the third thing would be take a look at how you want to be a year from now, 2 years from now. Do you want to still be dieting? No fat, no whatever? Do you want to keep looking for something else? Or do you want to be sort of comfortable with a new way of approaching it, a new way of thinking about food, a new way of feeling more comfortable with it instead of like, this is the enemy and I have to punish myself for eating and all those things can actually change if you go about it in a different way.
Gotcha.
So that was
That's
another
pretty.
long answer.
Hey, nothing wrong with long answers. That was some pretty helpful advice. So, right now in America, we're undergoing an obesity crisis, and it seems like it's going to get worse and worse. They say by 2030, I think they said pretty much half of America will be obese. Uh,
Mhm.
why is this? Why do you think America is so obese, and what can be done about it?
Okay. Um, First of all, okay, I have a particular thing about junk food. Okay, so it's processed food. Some people say it's genetics going on, but truth be told, obesity started to happen in epidemic proportions once junk food was invented, if you want to call it that, and introduced to society at large. And it's just getting worse and worse. And companies are making more and more money off of it. And guess what? They don't care about your health. They really don't. They're not trying to make you healthy. They're not. So I would say that number one, we've got to, as a society and as an individual, um, do what we can to stop eating it and to stop buying it and to stop encouraging other people to eat it. I mean, I know we do that in social situations. It's like, the chips come out, the pizza comes out, all that. So there is that, and I can get back to that later. The second thing, that you always hear, which is true, we do sit around more. Things are more convenient. We've got games and internet and all kinds of distractions, our phones, they keep us sitting down. Um, so, and I would say in conjunction with that, it has now become a thing where if you're going to exercise, you have to plan it. It isn't just something that's going to happen for you unless you happen to be in like say a postman or um, some sort of a job where you can walk around, which is great. But um, for most of us now, we have to sit around and go, well, wait a minute, I need to do something about this. I've got to change this because nobody's going to change it for me. My lifestyle is right here in front of me. This is the way it is. This is the way it is for so many. And I've got to take the bull by the horns and decide that I'm going to spend some time exercising or it won't happen. And that can be pretty tricky. So, because people have difficulty doing that on many levels.
What do you think about Ozempic?
Okay. Um, Two things. I think that for some people, it can be a good answer because when obesity happens, your brain changes. Okay. So, and it makes it very difficult to make good choices. Um, and okay, so appetite wise, your brain chemistry gets thrown off and your appetite is thrown off, and you really don't know when you're hungry and when you're not. All those things, and that is very difficult to change on your own. But you do notice that when they say we're going to prescribe Ozempic, they also prescribe lifestyle changes. Okay, it isn't just that, you've got to work on the whole shebang. And the research shows that if you just take Ozempic and then you add some lifestyle to it, it is more effective. Okay, so however, I would like to say that they're finding out, as you probably know, that once you go off it, the weight comes back on. Now,
Mhm.
why is that? That's because Ozempic does not change your brain enough to change how it works with your appetite and your appetite control. So once you get it off of the Ozempic, which, works on your liver, works on your feelings of fullness, it doesn't work on your brain to say, oh, this is how I'm going to eat from now on. It doesn't change that. So that's the downside of it. Um, and I know they're working on it.
Mhm.
They're working on some other drugs. I mean, this is clearly going to be a very lucrative area.
Yeah.
Um, so I would throw in that the country of Denmark, where Novo Nordisk came up with Ozempic, is their economy is now booming because of this drug. So, and also it's not available for regular person to just say, well, I'm just going to go get me some, and it
Yeah.
costs a lot of money, right? And right now insurance is not covering it. And they discovered that if Medicare wanted to cover it, they would go bankrupt. So,
That's interesting. So how
yeah.
does that work? Do you know Ozempic? How exactly does it work?
Okay, it does, it gives you a feeling of fullness, in your stomach because it slows stomach emptying.
Mhm.
And it also works on your liver so that insulin release is slowed down and becomes more normal, if you will. So there aren't those spikes that can lead to hunger, and cravings and that kind of thing. So,
Gotcha. All right, then. And you said the brain changes when you are obese, and you kind of touched on it, but could you explain more? How exactly does it change? And how do we, when we lose weight via some of the methods that you mentioned, does that cause our brain to reverse back to a normal state, or is it just stuck in that obese mode? You get what I'm asking?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that once you lose weight with Ozempic, that it really does not affect your brain in terms of how your appetite is and what you're choosing and all that. So you go right back to feeling hungry, even when you're not, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, so the way around that would be, now, okay, so I'm familiar with a woman who helps people with food addiction, so which kind of goes along with it. And she says that once you start eating more vegetables and fruit, changing your diet, it takes about 8 weeks for cravings to go away. So you have to be patient with yourself. Um, and go back to your question again in case I missed
No,
some
I
of that.
said, how does our brain change when we're
Oh,
obese? And
okay, yeah,
when we lose weight, does our brain revert back to its normal state, meaning a
okay.
pre-obese? Yeah.
Sometimes, okay, so it's not a cure-all, that's for sure. There are some genetic things that happen. There is gut health, which is
Mhm.
really important for your brain. Um, so, and some people unfortunately have bacteria in their guts, which they process carbohydrates more quickly, and that leads to obesity. And it's very difficult to do much about that. You're just going to have that. Um, so that's a problem. But the other thing is that, like with junk food, your brain likes it, right? So
Mhm.
you have to retrain your brain to not like that stuff, which you can't. You can do that. Like I just said, like, so after about 8 weeks, um, some of that craving will go away, but you have to be really vigilant with it and really making sure you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and it can actually reverse some of that. And there is inflammation. There's regular bodily inflammation that happens when you're obese. Um, that takes a while to calm down. That also affects your brain. Um, so long and short of it is you can sort of change your brain. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. What are the five fitness paradoxes? I was told somebody, I guess, with you sent me an email and said to ask you that.
Wow, that's from a long time ago. I'm not sure I remember them all.
Yeah.
Um, um, let's
Well, you
see.
don't have to name five. I
Yeah,
guess just
right.
name
Never
some of
mind.
them there.
That's from a long time. But I can say that let's switch it over. So, in my book, I talk about five things that are five mindsets or five ways of being that can get in the way of reaching your goals. Okay. So, and I have an assessment on my website which speaks to that. You can go on there, answer some questions, find out which tendency you have, and then you get a personal report saying, because you have this tendency, this might happen and that might happen instead. So I speak to that in my book, and also it's really relates to how you view your time. So time management, or if you want to call it that. So there are five of those. Okay. So, um, some people tend to, if they're faced with wanting to make health changes, they procrastinate. They wait for the best time. Well, I'm not motivated right now. My life's too busy. I just can't do this right now. So they put it off and put it off. And then, so when is the right time, right? There's that. The second one is, and this is a big one actually, I've seen this a lot, is that people accommodate. They accommodate other people. Um, you could put social eating in that category really easily. Our culture is rife with all kinds of rituals that we have. You know, you're snacking while you watch the Super Bowl, and you have to have nachos and all that. And or there's the other thing where, supposing you're the one who's preparing meals, your family expects certain things, and even the holidays come along.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't have sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving with the marshmallows on top, you're going to have a rebellion, right? So this is how we do it.
Yeah.
No questions asked. So, and it can even come down to, you know, you're busy, or your family, you've got all things to do, and you work and you come home. And do you have the ability to say to your family, we're going to change the schedule so that I can go do 20 minutes of exercise or stretching before I make dinner? Or on Saturday, we're all going to go for a walk. Or if you're not going to because you've got this or that, well, you're at soccer, I'm going to go do XYZ. And those are things that you can work in if you are willing to say to your family, no, or your boss, no, I'm not going to that meeting. I'm going to go do this. So a lot of times people have schedules where they feel like they have to do, have to do this, have to, you know. Um, maybe you can take a look at that schedule and say, now, really? who's really telling me I have to do this right now? Can I do it in 20 minutes? Can I schedule 20 minutes or even 30 to do some exercise and then get back and feel refreshed and do it even better, whatever it is. I myself as a mom felt like a better person if I kept with my exercise routine because as anybody who's a parent knows, patience can run thin
Hmm.
and exercise can be a great help to that. And then you feel like you've done something for yourself. You're not just constantly, at other people's beck and call. So
Yeah.
there's that.
It
That's a long
also,
answer for the second one. So the third one is sometimes people are perfectionists
yeah.
and they feel like, they've got to be on their diet or they're not. They've got to be at the gym or they've failed. um, so that needs to have some sort of mindset shift there. Um, think smaller, think fitting it into your life. Um, again, asking yourself, why do I think that's why I have to do it?
Hmm.
So there's that. Some people are distractible. I have trained people who are like that.
Yeah.
um, right?
Yeah. I
So,
noticed that like when I'm at the gym, I don't have my phone on me. I leave the phone in the locker just because you're constantly checking it and that leads to distraction. So yeah, it's definitely a problem.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a problem. So, it's like, oh, this could be so fun if I just do this first.
Hmm.
Um, it's difficult to just go, wait, no, because this isn't serving me if I do that. It's not serving my goal of health. So, and the last one is overwhelmed, so
Hmm.
just kind of goes along with accommodator. So people do have too much to do. A lot of people do. And good grief, we all know there's so much more out there that is on offer that we could be taking advantage of or doing. And there's so much stuff. Um, so the idea is to try to pare some of that stuff down to what really needs to happen. How can I keep this simple?
Yeah. Oh,
and relax a little bit about what the heck I'm doing all the time. So,
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but are you looking to reach a dynamic and engaged audience of curious minds? Well, look no further. Bright Brains Podcast is the perfect platform to showcase your business or product. You'll be able to reach a diverse and intelligent audience and engage with listeners passionate about personal development, technology, and more. Elevate your brand through thought-provoking discussions. Don't miss this opportunity to promote your business on one of the fastest growing podcasts in the market. Contact us today to discuss advertising options and elevate your brand to the next level. Contact us at brightbrainspod@gmail.com to secure your advertising spot on Bright Brains today. Again, that's Bright Brains with a Z pod pod at gmail.com. Now, back to the podcast.
yeah. So what types of exercise do you recommend that people do? Like running, weightlifting, or something else? Or
okay. So are you talking about just getting started or people who are,
let's say just getting started.
okay. So let's say you decide to do this. So the idea, as I said, is not to just run out the gate. So just start walking. The
Mm,
walking is great. Um, and you can over time just walk a little longer, walk a little faster, walk up hills, down hills. Um, that's just the easiest, most acceptable, accessible thing to do. You don't have to join a gym, spend money. You do need to get a good pair of shoes. That's it. And of course, if I was going to go back, and so the guidelines, their recommendations are 150 minutes a week of moderate activity plus 2 days of resistance training is what they recommend. So you can aim for that, but you do not have to do that right away. I would say just get used to exercising and realizing how good it feels and getting it into your schedule. That's huge. Like it's not just what you're going to do, but when are you going to do it? That's could be even more huge. So, I mean, you have to do both of those things. And then you can slowly over time change it a little bit longer if you want to. You can even stay at a level of 20 minutes a day and then find out a few exercises you can do. You can buy some free weights, have them at home. Again, ask around and find out what's the most effective thing to do. Weight-wise, just, maybe, okay, there's 10 basic resistance exercises you can do and learn them. And then gradually see how that works for you. I mean, you could continue to do that forever if you want, but you would probably end up having to get heavier weights. Fine, all right. If you get bored with that, fine. You're now on the road to learning some new things about it. You've found out how your body feels and how it works and what you're doing. So that's my take on that.
All right, then. Some things we talked about is lifestyle change and, exercise. How do we incorporate that into our life and make it sustainable? Because like you've mentioned before, people have jobs, they work and they're tired. People say they're going to work out, but after work, and then driving home or taking public transportation, they're worn out. So how do we incorporate this into our lifestyle?
Okay. Now this one, I'm going to give you sort of an off the wall answer here. Okay. So, and this is what I suggest to people so that they kind of get out of the, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Here's what somebody told me to do this. So number one, get yourself some really good shoes. So, and my thing would be wear sneakers around as much as you can. Because then you're already there, you're already dressed for exercise, right? You're already in that framework of mind where I'm good to go, right? And then you don't have to go through that whole thing of like, oh, I've got to change, go to the gym, I got to have a shower, I got to do this, it's going to be a whole hour and a half, and I just don't have time for that. Forget that. So just wear your sneakers, put it in your mind that you're ready to go. Learn a few things that you can do in the moment kind of thing. And you can even write them down if you want and do that. The other thing would be, number two, would be take a war against junk food. So try to eliminate as much as you can in your diet that is junk food. Now, what is junk food? You could argue some things, for instance, pizza gets a bad rap a lot, mostly because they consider pizza crust a refined flour. It's usually made out of white flour. Doesn't have to be, okay? So, but the other thing is what you're putting on pizza, like pepperoni, bad, right? But get yourself a Mediterranean pizza, and even on a white crust is fine with me. But something with arugula and olives and mushrooms and onions and loaded up with some veggies of bell peppers, great. I don't have a problem with that. So things like that. So that was kind of an aside, but in other words, find out. So junk food is stuff that's basically made out of chemicals. Okay, so Your body does not recognize those chemicals. Your gut bacteria does not recognize them, and it will change your gut bacteria if you're eating junk food, which sets up a whole cascade of events for your metabolism that isn't good. So, which makes it more difficult to eat right, okay? Makes it more difficult to keep your weight down. As we know, they manufacture foods to have sugar, salt, and fat in them, which are our big triggers in our brain, which, our brain lights up. It wants more of it. I'm sorry, there's another long answer here, but, say for instance, you sit down and have some Cheetos. How many Cheetos does it take to make you feel full? You don't even know.
Yeah.
That doesn't even come up, right? So
Mhm.
when you eat real food, you know when you're full. You have a better chance of knowing when you're full because you're satisfied, right?
Yeah.
You keep eating, you eat Cheetos, you're gonna have to keep eating them. And when do you stop? And even when, let's pretend you have a whole bag, you're still not satisfied because
Mhm.
you haven't eaten nutritious food. So that would be the thing, is to switch over to nutritious food, actually go on a war and go, I'm gonna find out about this stuff. I'm gonna look at labels. I'm gonna start substituting, Twinkies for, it's such a classic junk food,
Yeah.
Twinkies for a piece of fruit, You can also, like in my workbook, I have people write down fruits and vegetables that they like,
Mhm.
right? So you can substitute things for that. You don't have to go with Brussels sprouts. Nobody's gonna hang over. Figure out what veggies and fruits that you do like, get them in the house, and slowly over time switch over from junk food to things that actually have nutrition in them.
Mhm.
Now, here's another rant. So when my kids were little, growing up, we had a cabinet that was labeled junk food.
Mhm.
Okay, so right away my kids knew the difference between junk food and real food. So, and some people don't know the difference. They just figure food is food, you just eat it and you move on. Food is for nutrition. So you got to ask yourself, why do I eat? Before you start, why do I eat? Do I eat for nutrition? Or do I eat because it's fun? Or because somebody else told me what to eat? It's a social thing. Or bottom line, food is for your body. Okay, so there's
Mhm.
that. Which leads me to this third one, which is, before you start, I suggest you learn something about how your body works. A lot of people don't have any idea about, they hate science, they didn't take biology, or they didn't care about it, they just got through. I I was married to a doctor, and some of his patients, even professionals, lawyers, other, not other doctors, but had no idea, how their body works, what's going on with it. So there's, dummies books about nutrition for dummies. There's actually anatomy and physiology for dummies. There's my book. So in my book, one of my chapters is, there's actually 14 systems in your body, but here's 10 systems in your body that you need to know about: digestion, nerves, metabolism, what's going on with your muscles. You just need to know a few basics about what those are and realize that they all interact all the time, which is why nutrition is so important. So when you do that, then you can start to appreciate more about nutrition and then what can go wrong? And I also have a page of what can go wrong in each one of those systems if you don't eat right. So it's the truth. I mean, a lot of chronic disease comes from bad nutrition.
Yeah, what are some examples of chronic disease that comes from bad nutrition?
Okay, the big three
Yeah.
would be, right away there's diabetes, right? So, which is driven mostly by overweight, I would say. Not always, but mostly. And then there's type 1 diabetes, which is a genetic thing and you're born with, because your pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. But there's type 2 comes along when your metabolism becomes skewed and your insulin, your body becomes insulin resistant. And that is driven by fat cells a lot. So that keeps going and going, and then it's a tough one. But you can reverse diabetes by losing weight. So there's that. So in heart disease, huge. Eating saturated fats is definitely a cause of heart disease. Not getting exercise is a cause of heart disease. Then, along with circulatory issues, there's stroke, that comes along as well. And cancer. There's a bunch of cancers that they've discovered are linked, right, to overweight or bad nutrition.
So, what are some of your go-to healthy snacks? Instead of eating Twinkies and potato chips, what are some healthy snacks that you would recommend?
Well, fruit, hummus, celery. So pick fruits that you like. Strawberries are great. Avocado is a good snack. Avocado oil is really good for you and your brain. So if you want to just hang a general rule on it, whole foods, you would say pick a food that is normal. It's a natural food. Find out what you like to eat. Watch out for sliced oranges that have sugar added, that kind of thing. Steer away from sodas, all that kind of thing. So basically whole foods. Even you could have some crackers if you want, but make good choices with crackers. These days you can get, multi-seed crackers, that kind of thing.
So, do you have any hope that America is going to end its obesity crisis anytime soon? Or do you think it's just going to keep getting worse and worse?
Okay. I don't have much hope actually. And I'll tell you what, it's just a very big project. It involves trying to shut down some of the people who are making junk food. It involves changing the education system. It involves getting foods available in areas, healthy foods available in areas where it is not available. It involves some cultures are just steeped in, dodgy ways to eat. So it's a long, big project, but I think we should not shirk. We should try, do what we can. I think we should do what we can, attack it from as many ways as we can, as we're able. And on an individual basis, like I'm doing that, just my area of expertise, I just do that. I don't get politically involved with big companies and big pharma and all that stuff. But just, you can pick something outside of yourself, and then you can also pick, obviously, your own self and start making your own changes.
if the president came to you and said, if you give me one thing to do that'll help end the obesity crisis, and whatever it is you recommend, I'll do it. No questions asked.
Ah,
What one
hmm.
thing would you recommend?
Wow. Um, the president.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, yeah, really go after food manufacturing.
Mhm.
Bottom
Yeah.
line. Yep.
Yeah. So just cut out, just tell them about making junk food and candy and all that. Yeah.
Guarantee. Yeah.
It is a major problem. One thing I noticed is a lot of these cereals, like these breakfast cereals like Frosted Flakes and Trix and all that kind of stuff. Kids eat those, and it's candy basically. A lot of people eat candy for breakfast. It's
Yeah.
it's wild. So I want to ask about genetics. I know you kind of touched on this. Are there people who are just genetically predisposed to obesity, or is does
Yes.
genetics play a role at all in obesity or
Yes.
not?
There are people who, unfortunately, who are. They're discovering more and more genes that are involved with one. There is one famous one, the FGO, they call it the fat gene. If you have it, you're predisposed, but they keep finding more and more. And you may have two of them or five of them, and they may or may not combine with each other. And so, yes, the answer to that is yes. It doesn't mean that you should give up. It doesn't mean that you should say, well, it's my genes, because there's still plenty that you can do. You may not get down to, you know, what these darn models look like and stuff, but you can definitely keep healthy. Do a bit about your weight, as I discussed. So even if you lose 5 to 10% of your weight, it impacts your health a lot. So you should never just throw your hands up and say, sorry.
Yeah, I
So
got it.
yeah, they just, I would love to give a percentage here, but of people that have that, in the literature I've read, it kind of varies a lot. So 20 to 40%, something like that. Of people,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right then. So one thing also I was told to ask is for your fitness and diet toolbox. Is that something that you remember? No? No, no. All right then. We'll scratch that out. All right then. Let's see
Oh, that's
here.
really old too. So,
Yeah.
okay, so toolbox would be, um, it's more of a mindset thing. So you'll know before you start, you gotta have skills, you gotta learn some skills that you don't have, that you haven't used. You've gotta have strategies that you haven't used before. You're gonna have to do some learning. You're gonna have to learn some stuff. And so a few basic exercises, some basic stuff about your body. Um, and you're going to have to put a question mark on the things that you have always thought were true. So question it, why do we always have to have sweet potatoes with mashed potatoes, with marshmallows on? Why? Why is
Yeah.
that? Um, why do I eat? What is it for? And then one of my favorite questions is what's my worst health habit and what's my best health habit? So those are more things that get the whole idea here is to prepare your mind to do something different that's really going to help you. A little anecdote here. So I was working with a fellow last week, and he he said he had a buddy who said, let's lose weight together. We'll have a contest and we'll see, and then we'll have a little bet and whoever wins, blah, blah. So the thing about it is, if you have a contest, and this is the same as interventions that happen all over the place. There's workplace interventions, there's weight loss programs, there's this and that. If you're just doing it to win the t-shirt or so you don't have to pay your buddy, what is the point when that's finished? Has anything inside of you changed? Have you learned anything? Have your skills changed? Has your mindset changed? No, you just want to win the contest. So that's why all of those things are so important.
All right, Dan. So tell us about your book that you wrote and where we can go to find it.
Okay. My book is called The End of Try Again. And it's really written for people who have tried to diet before and failed. And because at any given time, 40% of people in America are on a diet.
Mm-hmm.
So it really tries to switch around that whole thing of just, change into a mindset switch, a strategy switch, a skill set switch. And then I have a workbook that goes with it called the Action Workbook, which walks you through a weekly or bi-weekly action that you can take that is based on questions that you answer about yourself and your motivations and your habits. So it raises awareness, and then you yourself come up with your own answers of what you're willing to do, per week. So that's how that is. And that's can be found on Amazon, both of them. I recommend getting both of them at the same time. Read the first book first, just for kind of a theoretical basis and sort of a mindset shift. And then the workbook can help you implement what's written in the first book. So just slowly change over, a slow changeover, which is what they show over and over again is what really works for sustainable weight loss and exercise.
Awesome. All right, then. So one last question. Fasting. What's your opinion on fasting? Is that a valid way to lose weight? Is it junk, or what's your whole opinion on that?
Okay, I think fasting can be a good thing.
Mhm.
They're still working on research on exactly what happens in your body when you do that, but they do know a lot. And what happens is your brain sort of goes into this kind of cleanup mode, which is a good thing. But you don't want to do it again. You don't want to do it really quick. Like, you want to get used to it. Start slow and then just do it. And you may just want to ever just go. Some people go from 11 to 5, for instance, every day. They don't eat either side of that window. And you can get used to that, and that's fine. You can just stop there if you want. I would add that a cool thing about fasting is that some people just hate the feeling of being hungry, and they hate the feeling of like, oh, I've got to have something to eat every 3 hours, So it's a nice sort of way of going, well, hey, wait a minute, I can actually carry on if I'm hungry, or it's all right if I don't eat all the time. Like, you can actually, it's a good thing in your mind for some people, just to understand that in their being, that it's okay, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, then. So, yeah, this has been a great interview. There's a lot of great information here, and I've definitely learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure my audience will as well. Is there anything else you have to promote, or is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yes, I would like to promote the fact that there is this assessment you can do on my website. I also blog all the time on my website. I also blog for Psychology Today, which my blog there is called Health and Human Nature, which kind of goes through, all the things that we are as humans, and good grief, we're up against a lot, but we need to understand those things in order to help ourselves. So there's that. And I will be having a coaching program that will be available on my website if anybody wants information on that.
Gotcha. And just let the people know what your website is, just in case they aren't
Good
able to see it. Yeah.
It's called Design for Fitness. So Design for Fitness, all one word, .com.
Awesome. All right, then.
Kristen
Well,
Carter.
awesome. Thanks a lot, Christian. And yeah, I'm definitely, I can't wait to get this episode out. You have a nice day.
Great, you too. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us for another enlightening conversation here on Bright Brains. I hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your own bright ideas. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or however else you listen to this podcast. Also, we can be found on all major social media. Just type in Bright Brains with a Z. And remember, the brightest minds are those that never stop seeking knowledge.